Hey everyone, welcome to Tuhon and Son. I'm Ryan Gelinas.
And I'm Tuhon Philip Gelinas.
He's a member of the Black Belt, Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame, and he does Kajukembo, Cali, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and what else do you do, Dan?
I listen to you talk to people about what I do.
Okay, well, you know, sometimes an episode is everyone's first episode. And, you know, like every good comic book, you're like, who's that? That's Spider-Man. But, you know, you need that little Stan Lee caption. Once bitten by a radioactive spider, Peter Parker turns from a big dork into a big, awesome red-blue guy. Yeah. Speaking of Spider-Man, he's in Civil War now. It's awesome. Anyway, Dad, you went to France.
I went to France.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, before we begin, people are going to be wondering, where the heck is your Dan and a Santos interview? Well, Dan is a man that deserves a master plan. And coming up next episode is, drumroll, our 50th episode. 50 episodes. That's 50 episodes of a dream a father and son had once. When they're
a small dream.
When they're yakking in the kitchen, they're like, hey, wouldn't it be interesting if we did like 4 of these? Well, there's 50. And Dan and Santo will be our 50th episode. We're going to try to get that 50th episode on iTunes as well, so all you all can download it on your phones and be like, oh man, because it's over an hour long. And why is it over an hour long? Because it's Dan and Santo. Gee whiz, you don't cut that guy off. You say more, give me more, I'm hungry for it. Dan, you got some knowledge? Well, I got some time. Anyway, so that's the next episode. Number 50, Dan and Santo. In the meantime, Dad was just in France.
I was in France.
And I'm going to let you, go for it, Dad. Tell me about France.
Well, actually, it actually starts back in the Philippines. Back in, I think, 2012, I went over to the Philippines and I was participating in my teacher's Grand Tuhon Leo Tigahi. They have a big conference every year in March, and I would go over there, and it would be about 4 days during the weekend, and people would come there from all over the world. They had people from New Zealand and Australia and France and South America and U.S. and Canada, of course, from me. And
so it's like It's a Small World after all.
It's a small world after all. It's a small Cali world after all.
Lethal, you know, instead of like, you know, them hugging and kissing, they're freaking swinging swords at each other.
Well, when people want to cut you off, they don't necessarily mean with a car.
All right.
Anyway, so while I was there, I met people. Actually, there were people also there from Russia, and they had people from Germany, and of course, people from Philippines, and people from China, and people from Singapore. I mean, all over the world, we were represented in this place. So anyway, while I was there, I had the great fortune of meeting people from the Petit Tercia France group, and they're represented. They have created an organization over there called AFSTAMP, which is the Association Française de Self-Defense et Arts Martiaux Philippines, which is so you take all the letters, and it is run. Well, the president now is Centrine, but it used to be Frankie Lecoq, and Frankie Lecoq is a police officer who lives in the town of Nantes, and which is on the west, almost on the west coast of France. Anyway, they've got a Cali group, and it's affiliated with Eric Lalagnet's group in Paris and other groups all around France. And so that what they've been doing is trying to expand their Cali knowledge. Eric lived in the Philippines for a few years. He was attached to the embassy there, and he was teaching and he was learning from various members of the Petit Tercia Instructors Fraternity. And, of course, he would tell his friends back in France about it. And so Frank came over, and a lot of Frank's students came over. They'd been training. Frank is a long-time practitioner of martial arts, been doing judo since he was a kid, all that kind of stuff, and expanded. As he started realizing that you need to learn more, he went and learned more. He met Eric Lagnet at a seminar. I believe, I'm not sure exactly what, it might have been the first Salimus Lee seminar when he was in France first time, but I may be totally mistaken, but I know that there was an affiliation there somewhere. Anyway, so what happened was about 2.5 years ago, they had invited me to go over there and teach a weekend seminar, which I did. And they seemed to like it, so they asked me back for the next year. And then they said, well, you know, we had a first French conference of Petit Tercia. This was 2 years ago. And they invited a Tuhon Romel Tortal, and he was there, and he was their special guest, and they had a few other people as well. And last year they had a Mars Camp. Mars Camp is Martial Arts Research Systems under Ron Balicki and Diana Inosanto, and they sponsored that, and that was really good. And they want to do a second Bikini Tercia camp, and they asked me if I would be the lead instructor. And so
yeah, I saw the schedule. You're teaching all the time.
I taught 18 hours over the time we were there. But we also had Eric. Eric is an awesome instructor. He's he's got a lot of tactical knowledge. He's worked with the Raid group in France, and so he's really
Raid,
up there.
like Raid Redemption, or
no? It's I'm not really sure how it translates, but it's kind of like they're like the super SWAT team, and they're
I like that term, super SWAT team.
But they're really good at what they do, and he's really quite competent in his execution of movements. I'm saying that in a very positive but understated tone, because awesome is what he is. But we also had another guy there who had just moved back to France from South America, from Brazil actually. It's Michael Doulou, and they both represent the Bikini Tercia Tactical Association, which is run by Tuhon Philip originally from New Zealand, but now based out of Utah. He's based out of Utah, which is in the United States.
That's a big difference between New Zealand and Utah.
I know, but
makes me think of Flight of the Conchords, like hanging out.
Well, one interesting thing about Jared is, he's got, he was a reserve SWAT officer. He's taught guys in the special forces. There's a special forces group that's affiliated with that's really close to where he is. He's also done an awful lot of things. There's he works with what's it called? Some manufacturers and weapon manufacturers, and because he's working with weapon manufacturers, he gets to see people at the. There's a big show called the SHOT Show, and he represents right there, and so he's got that. These guys are students of his, and the one thing unusual about Jared is he speaks Tagalog, which is unusual for a New Zealander to do, but he also, of course, speaks English, and I think he's probably pretty fluent in Portuguese, which is what they speak in South America, or not in Brazil. Not actually, Brazil is the only place in South America where they don't speak Spanish for everybody. This is their thing. Anyway, so that's what I did. I had these three guys, and they taught a portion of it, and I taught the rest, and it was really quite amazing. We had about 37 or 38, or actually we had different people who could register for different parts. We had about 40 people all together, and it was quite awesome. We were in this small town called La Balle Est du Black, which is it's on a coast on the west coast. It's right on the ocean, and they were telling me historically that this place was pretty well smashed up by the invasions during the Second World War. But they had some really awesome things. It's a really nice town. It's quite rich, so my wife went off to some market and was shocked that junk was selling for more than the real stuff would be at a regular price. But hey, that's life, and it was really awesome. So while I was there, also,
how can I buy my crap?
Yeah, exactly.
There's owls on this stuff.
How will I get it home? Anyway, so we did that, and then when I went back, I had been approached by some guys from the Kajukembo France group, Luis and Joe Diaz, and they've been teaching and spreading.
And this is this year?
That's this year. You're
okay.
right. I'm not talking about at the same time, which is why I'm not saying,
okay.
And
so you're
then
talking
later.
about presently.
Presently, like
okay.
a couple of days ago.
All right.
They had asked me before I went. There was a guy named Frederick Voisin who comes to Montreal as a salesman representing a seafood manufacturer in France, and he's a Kajukembo practitioner in Bordeaux. And he came in and said, "Oh, by the way, my teacher's teacher would like to speak to you if it's possible." And I said, "Well, okay, sure." So they and I communicated back and forth on Facebook Messenger. We arranged that I could meet them. So I left Nantes on Monday and got to Paris. They picked me up after we couldn't find our bags because I couldn't read the signs that said where our bags were. So I went halfway across the airport and finally looked at one of those screens because they didn't have very many of them and realized that they were at the bottom of the stairs when we came off the plane. So when we got back, we found out that even though there were only 4 bags that were coming out, they hadn't got there yet. So all was not lost. And but we spent the day with them, and it was amazing because I got to see them. They were really, really warm, warm people, very hospitable. They brought us to their home, and I went off. I saw the class. There's a place called Chile Mazarin, which is the name of one of their suburbs, and that's where they have a big school there attached to a indoor soccer park. Actually,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. And they
did some training, some soccer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kick 'em, any way you want. Anyway, so they did that.
So they're training with they're training and they're Cali, and they're like, oh man. Oh
yeah,
wait, but Cali's.
No, this wasn't Cali. This was Kajukenbo.
Oh, so they're Kajukenbo.
These are Kajukenbo guys.
So every time they, they're practicing their kicks, they're like, I can't wait to show the guys on the soccer field this one.
Look, I missed the ball and kicked his head off. Anyway,
maybe I missed the ball, but did you see that? Did you see that spin kick? Yeah.
Anyway, so. What happened was, we did that, and then we went to their house for a few hours.
You just said what happened.
I know.
No, I'm the guy who has to edit these things.
Okay.
I would like you to do me and our listeners a favor by taking your time and actually pronounce a freaking sentence.
So next, what we did, we went to their house where I met Luis's charming wife, and we spent. Okay. Then we went, when we left their school.
You don't have to get all Morgan Freeman
I know, but stop it. You're trying to edit me doing edit while I'm trying to edit myself.
Oh, this is staying in.
Okay.
This is episode 49. This is when the truth gets out.
Okay. So next we left the school in Chile Mazarin. We went over to their house where I met Luis's very charming wife.
Okay. You got to stop talking like that, though.
All right. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. Anyway. While we were there, we did that, and then we went off to downtown Paris, or actually I think it's another part of, it's not Paris, but it's where a really famous school is, where they have a school called Le Cercle Tessier, which is this big school. They have 3,000 practitioners that train there, and this place isn't very big. I mean, they've got a couple of training areas that are about maybe 1,000 square feet, and they've got another one that's maybe 1,500 square feet. They have 500 people practicing Aikido, because that's what Christian Tessier is, a Aikido instructor, a Shihan, a master. And then they have all these other people who train there from early morning to late at night. I mean, it's amazing, because people just come in, the class ends, and tons of people shuffle into the room that you just left. And anyway, they had about 25 or 30 people in this 1,000 square foot area, and they were hitting each other just like Kajukenbo people do. They hit hard. They're really good at what they do, and I was very pleased to have met them. And they've asked me to be, I guess you could consider it an ambassador for them, because they were involved with some people in Spain, and those people from Spain had decided that that they basically didn't walk on the floor; they floated above it. And I know this is kind of a hard thing for me to say to them, but the reality was they're just people, just like all of us. And anyway, so the people in Spain and the people in France had a bit of a falling out, and so the people in France decided that they wanted to reconnect with the World Kajukenbo Group, KSDI, the Kajukenbo Self-Defense Institute, which is headquartered originally in Hawaii, but now is based out of California. And the executive director is Dici Imperato, who's a sister of the founder, Adriano Imperato. And we're going to get them recognized as the official French representatives of KSDI. And so they can start to reestablish themselves in the world of Kajukenbo. So before they were, the Angel Garcia, their teacher, had kind of isolated himself. He had decided that without actually checking with anybody, he decided to tell everybody that he was the successor to this art.
Okay.
And, he was the successor to Imperato. But it's always kind of amusing to me, because he speaks Spanish, not much English. Imperato spoke English, no Spanish. So I just wonder, if you say that somebody gave you something, that at least they have to be able to say, here, I give this to you. And you have to be able to understand that. But if somebody says to you in a foreign language, I mean, anything that you don't understand in a language is foreign. So if somebody says blah, blah, blah to you, and you go...
Yeah, every time someone screams something at me in French, I just assume they're telling me I'm handsome and special.
And they want you to take over their martial arts system.
And they're like, you are now the master of French.
Anyway, so because of that, they were...
Quebec French, everybody.
Well, no, but as a result of this little situation that happened with Angel, the rest of the world has kind of gone, well... okay, you're isolating yourself because everybody else doesn't, in fact, everybody who was possible to sign it on a page called, on the Kajukenbo Cafe, which is kind of like an open source thing with all these different titles of things you can post on, signed a thing saying, well, nobody in Kajukenbo was going to accept anything higher than a 9th degree black belt in the Grandmaster level, and so that there were no 10th degrees. And as a result, Angel, who promoted himself to 10th degree and started wearing a gold belt, he basically excluded, include me out, I guess is what we call it. And so he's been doing that. And he was a friend of ours. He basically decided that he no longer wanted to fulfill that aspect of our relationship, and so he has been somewhat isolated. Professor Sijo Emperado, the founder, died in 2009 on April 4th. We found out about this ascension to leadership that Angel decided was happening, and nobody else agreed with him.
How did you find out exactly?
He announced it to the world. He basically,
okay.
We're all going, well, okay, nobody's, in honor of Sijo, we are not going to accept anything higher than a 9th degree. Okay, done. And I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe he even said, oh yeah, absolutely. And then he let everybody know that he thought that Emperado had made him the successor to this art.
Okay.
And so we all went, no. But he had some good friends in the Kajukenbo world, and it took them a while to accept the fact that he had actually said these things. And so, anyway.
That's the thing about the internet, is once you post something,
it's there forever.
It's there forever, and you can't really, like, unless you're Bieber and you claimed you were hacked after you said something really jerkish.
After you pulled it out and said, that wasn't me.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a, and I don't want you to go on a Prince tangent or anything like that, but there was this little, just a little topical whatever, is that someone tweeted, someone of notoriety tweeted, like, Prince died. It's like, oh, the last of the greatest living performers. And then, Bieber just had to chime in, say, well, not the last of the greatest living performers. And it's just kind of
okay, Jason, or Justin, who else is there?
Yeah, but anyway, I don't know, just that kind of like unnecessary thing. We're getting kind of like, what about France, Dad?
What about France? Well, this has all happened. No, anyway.
So this was a big topic of the weekend.
Yeah, this was like, because I had to give a bit of backstory.
Yeah,
just to say that I'm going to be the ambassador to help them reintegrate back into Kajukenbo in the world brotherhood. It would only matter if there had been some kind of expulsion.
So how does this affect the France people, though?
Well, what happens is that Angel has now put them in a situation where he's promoted somebody up from the ranks and said, "You're now my representative," which is fine because they can represent. You can't stop somebody. If I say, "Ryan, you're now my representative," nobody in the world can say anything about that because you will be my representative.
You've been watching me do martial arts for 30 years. You must know what to do. Oh, boy.
Yeah, but the thing is that but the KSDI is a recognized international association of martial artists in the Kajukenbo system. It was the system, it was the organization put together by Sijo Emperado, the founder, and is now run by a member of his family. And so for that reason only, it has legitimacy, it has continuity, and there are people who go there, and it's not really partisan. There's an awful lot of organizations. There's the KSDI. There are people who practice One-Up Kendo, which is one of the variations of Kajukenbo that was created afterwards. There are people from Tumpai. Tumpai is another major variant of Kajukenbo, practiced with a lot of like Tai Chi type elements that were blended in. And then they've got the people from Chuan Fa. So they've got all these people who meet together.
Sorry, just because I just want to make it perfectly clear. This Angel guy, was he representing France, and as a result...
No, he wasn't representing France. He was actually representing Europe.
Okay, so all of Europe. So as a result, does France have to prove their legitimacy now or something?
No, they don't have to... They don't have to do it. Basically, what he's saying is that now that you're no longer affiliated with me, I'm putting somebody else in your place.
Okay.
But meanwhile, they've got schools in Bordeaux. They have schools. They've got a school that's affiliated with them that's near the French-Spanish border. They've got 2 schools in Paris. They've got a couple of schools in the Alsace region. I mean, they've got people all over the place who practice this art under them. And these are people who want to be representative of the Kajukenbo whole system rather than just a very small segment of people that practice with one person in Spain.
Okay. So basically, you going to this trip, as good as the trip was and all the training you did, this kind of like was the understory of the entire thing. Like, you know,
well, it was kind of like
when did you find out that you were like they're going to be asked to represent them as their ambassador?
When I got there.
Okay.
Because one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to go in and strong arm anybody.
Yeah.
And the plan, they were asking just to talk because they were so isolated for so long, and they speak French and not English, their circumstances are somewhat unique in that you can read, you can look at all these words you want, but if I look at Spanish words, I can translate some of them. But if I presume that from this translation I'm going to get anything more than just, these words are in Spanish, I'm not going to get a sense of what this is. I need to have someone who actually speaks the language explaining things to me and explaining to me how it would work and where the thing would be. An awful lot of people from other environments will come into Kajukenbo and they'll leave their former instructors and they will first thing they will look for is some high exalted rank increase. And none of these guys are not interested in that. They're interested in being recognized so that their students can continue to work under the Kajukenbo banner and be recognized as Kajukenbo people.
Well, because there's this big problem you have with the family tree where people who denounce their students as black belts all of a sudden don't want or they end up didn't promoting the guy to black belt. And you telling them, it's like, listen, when you say someone is a black belt under you, it's on there and it stays on there. There's a reason for it. It's a timely process. And then when people come back and say, "Oh, I don't associate with that person anymore," me and him aren't talking. I didn't like a post he made.
Well, actually, there's an awful lot of that, and there's far too much of it. But what you do is you establish a principle. But one of the most important things about any principle you establish is that you have to follow it. You can't say, "I'm going to follow this in every situation except this one," because what happens is that some people will call me up and they'll have broken off from their instructor. And maybe they haven't gotten a black belt yet. And sometimes they'll say to me, "I want to be on under my instructor." Well, who's your instructor? And they tell me the name. And I go, "Well, I just received his posting from all these things, and he doesn't have your name on here." "Oh, yeah, but and then a very explicative. And you go, "Well, do you have anything?"
Bleep, bleep, bleep. That's all, folks.
Do you have any proof? Because unfortunately, one of the simple, you can't sort of say, "Come over here and demonstrate this kata," or beat somebody up for me and I'll see if my evaluation of your quality is good enough. That wouldn't really work anyway. Basically, the only thing you have, the same way that the only thing you have to prove that you're any good in a university is a diploma of some sort.
Okay.
So if you have a diploma, then people can't say that they didn't give it to you. Mind you, I was visiting my friend Gary Forbach's place in San Clemente many years ago, and he showed me some photocopies of stuff that he received from people in Europe way before Kajukenbo even reached those shores. And he was showing these things to me because what the guys would do is they would take a certificate that they'd seen, make a photocopy of it, white out the name, and put their own in there.
A fake ID.
Yeah, but it's not even a fake ID. It's like, it's way beyond fake. It's like,
this will
you
get
can't
us
even
beer.
believe it. Yeah, this you can't even believe it. They didn't even try hard.
We're going to get drunk on glory.
So there's a whole lot of that kind of stuff going on. So it takes time, especially when you're doing a family tree, to make sure that the continuity is right and that the people who you put on there, because, literally, good friends of mine have told me within 12 months, "Oh, yeah, this guy, he's under me. I want to have him under me now." And then you go, "Okay, fine." So you put him on, and a year later they go, "Oh, no, I was wrong." Well, you can't be wrong.
We're wrong. Anakin joined the dark side.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. But even then, even when Anakin joined the dark side, his names were still on the list of Jedis, because until he left, he was one.
And after he left, there wasn't Jedi for very long. All right, Dad. So we've been talking about the good, the bad, and the extremely heavy. My goodness, I think this is the heaviest Tuhon and Son episode to date because you're coming out of your shell. You're saying no, injustice, I say. But maybe not those words exactly, but that's just my lingo. I've been watching a lot of Avengers movies. Tell us a little story about when you were training. You were not training. You were teaching, and then you took a class. How did you hurt your arm?
Well, I think
whatever.
Shoulder.
Whatever. Thanks, Dr. Ruth. Mom just walked in.
Anyway, what happened is that I had never had the pleasure of meeting Michael Dolu before. And he's the gentleman I mentioned before from Brazil who had returned to France, and he was part of the instructor cadre at this seminar. And he was giving some classes, and I said to myself, I want to take some of these classes because, you know, yeah, you give a lot of classes and it takes a lot of energy, but you don't really see what the person knows until you actually take classes with them or do some kind of training with them. So I said, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And I thought he was going to teach for an hour and a half, and it turned out he taught for like 3 hours. So my body was, oh no, you know, an hour and a half later I said, well, it'll be over soon. God, it's not. So I did the class. He was, you know, he's not a rough teacher, but he was demanding that people, you know, do the techniques. It wasn't you know, pity-patty stuff. It was, you know, people would do techniques, and so you had to do something specifically to get away from them. And you had to practice your technique. You had to practice your disarm. And there's a lot of like banging arms and things like that to make sure that you were not just sort of like imagining the technique, you were actually applying it. And afterwards it was over, because I didn't feel anything like this during the seminar, the training. The training was fine. It was post-seminar that I felt like my shoulder was somewhere near my knee, and it felt like I destroyed it.
Okay. So
life
you're
goes
walking
on.
around like Quasimodo. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like
That Quasimodo, that means almost moto.
Quasimodo. Anything else about France before we wrap up, Dad?
No, not really. I just wanted to big shout out. Thank you very much, Frank and Severine and Cedric and Eluan. Ba 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 ba. You'll know what this means.
That's a private joke with us.
Yes, actually, I ran into some group. Eluan, who's this young 6-year-old, was really involved in this cartoon is very popular over there called Les Lapins Crétins. What Les Lapins Crétins means are the crazy rabbits. And so people would interface with them, and these rabbits would just sort of go ba ba ba, and so they would talk this way. You know, instead of words, they go ba 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 ba, and it would, of course, drive.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but it sounds really racist.
It's not racist. It's hilarious. Anyway, so this is all me saying bye bye bye.
All right, thank you for listening to Tuhon and Son. You can check out our website, MontrealMartialArts.com. That's right, we've been around that long that we could coin that URL. MontrealMartialArts.com. The phone number here is 514-281-9928. The gym name, of course, is Gamma, the Gentleman's Academy of Mixed Martial Arts.
And the address is 11270 117 St. Catherine Street West, Suite 222.
And yeah, that's it. All right.
We're open all the time. We're training all summer. We don't take time off.
Yeah, and you know, the first rule about Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club. First rule of Tuhon and Son is goddamn talk a lot about Tuhon and Son. I see the statistics. I want views in Mexico, man. I want this to go worldwide. I want everyone in the world to just hear Dad's stories, hear Dad's thoughts. That's why the show exists, you know? Because Dad's kind of an introverted guy, but when he talks about martial arts, it comes out of his shell. When you put a video camera on him, oh, jeez.
I turn into a Ninja Turtle, mostly in the shell.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so the first rule about Tuhon and Son, talk a lot about Tuhon and Son. Good night, good luck, Godspeed, and
watch those TV shows and movies with superheroes.
Yeah, and blah 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 blah.
No, ba ba ba.
Ba 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 ba. Oh, jeez. All right.